Welcome to Hollywood Graveyard, where we set out to remember and celebrate the lives of those who lived to entertain us by visiting their final resting places. Today we're exploring Angelus Rosedale Cemetery and Chapel of the Pines, where we'll find such stars as Hattie McDaniel, May Wong, Nigel Bruce, and many more. Join us, won't you? Angelus Rosedale was founded in 1884 as Rosedale Cemetery, making it one of the oldest cemeteries in LA. In fact, so old is this cemetery that Mother Earth has begun to reclaim it for her own. It sits on 65 acres of land not far from downtown LA. A few years after its creation, in 1887, Rosedale opened the US's second ever crematory, the first west of the Rockies. Rosedale was the very first cemetery in LA open to all races and creeds. So here, we'll find a number of Hollywood's Black and Asian stars. It was also the first in the area to adopt the new lawn cemetery approach, where the grounds are enhanced with decorative trees, shrubs, flowers, and natural scenery, a precursor of sorts to the Memorial Park concept adopted by Forest Lawn years later. On the grounds is also a small mausoleum for niche and crypt entombment. In 1993, Rosedale was purchased by Angelus Funeral Home and was renamed Angelus Rosedale. Given the eclectic array of gravestones and monuments that dot the landscape here, Angelus Rosedale has served as the backdrop for a number of film and television productions over the years, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and 6 Feet Under. We'll also be visiting Chapel of the Pines today, which is this charming little old crematory and columbarium adjacent to, but separate from, the cemetery. We'll begin our tour of Angelus Rosedale just in from the entrance on the left, in Section D. Right near the corner of this lawn is the grave of Hattie McDaniel. She was a radio, film, and television star known for being the first black woman to sing on the radio in the US, and is perhaps best remembered today for her role as Mammy in Gone with the Wind.
I told you that she can always tell a lady but the way that she eat in front of folks like a bird. And I ain't aiming for you to go to Mr. John Wilkins's and eat like a field hand and gobble like a hog.
Fiddle-dee-dee. Ashton Wilkes told me he likes to see a girl with a healthy appetite.
What gentleman says and what they thinks is two different things. And I ain't noticed Mr. Ashley asking for to marry you.
Her performance as Mammy earned her an Academy Award in 1940, making her the very first African-American entertainer to win Hollywood's highest honor. The hotel where the Oscars were held that year had a no blacks policy, but McDaniel was let in as a favor.
I sincerely hope I shall always be a credit to my race and to the motion picture industry. My heart is too full to tell you just how I feel. And may I say thank you, and God bless you.
Before her death, Hattie McDaniel's wish was to be buried at Hollywood Cemetery, now Hollywood Forever Cemetery. But the owner at the time, Jules Roth, did not accept black people for burial there, and so she was laid to rest here at Rosedale. In 1999, the new owners of Hollywood Forever offered to have McDaniel reinterred there, but the family did not wish to disturb her remains, so as a gesture to honor her last wish, a cenotaph to Hattie McDaniel was placed at Hollywood Forever. Let's make our way to the middle of this same lawn. Here we find actor Monroe Salisbury. His career began on stage before becoming an early silent film star and matinee idol, frequently working with Cecil B. DeMille and later at Universal. His greatest success was the lead male role in 1916's Ramona. In 1935, he checked into a mental hospital. He died at 59 from injuries sustained in a fall while there. His body lay in a local mortuary for a day until his true identity was revealed. Just 4 mourners attended the funeral of the once matinee idol. Our next stop isn't a star per se, but her name should ring a bell. In Section H, in a ways from the road, just south of the line of trees, we find Maria Rasputin. She was the daughter of Grigory Rasputin. Yes, that Rasputin, Russia's mad monk, mystic and holy man to Russia's last monarch, Tsar Nicholas II. Maria wrote a number of memoirs about her father, and also worked for a time as a circus performer. Let's make our way around to the east side of Section J. In a short ways from the road, we find David Burbank. He was a dentist and businessman who owned a large portion of land just north of Hollywood that would eventually bear his name. Burbank is now known as the media capital of the world, as it hosts the headquarters of a number of major studios, including Disney, Warner Brothers, Nickelodeon Animation, and Cartoon Network. And beautiful downtown Burbank would also become the butt of many a joke on Rowena Martin's Laugh-In.
I like beautiful downtown Burbank, but then I've seen Transylvania.
No look at beautiful downtown Burbank would be complete without a brief understanding of the culture that made this metropolis the hub of the universe.
This was beautiful downtown Burbank.
Straight across the street east is Section 7. Under the tree, we find the grave of Ivie Anderson. She was a popular jazz singer of the 30s and 40s, often performing with Duke Ellington.
All I had in life is gone, stormy weather.
She was just 45 when she died from complications of asthma. Let's head to the section straight north of here. About halfway in is the grave of Anna May Wong, interred here with her mother Lee Toy and her sister. Anna May was an actress and fashion icon of the 20s and 30s, considered Hollywood's first Chinese-American star, and the first Asian American to attain international celebrity. Her films include The Toll of the Sea, the first Technicolor feature made in Hollywood, The Thief of Baghdad, and Shanghai Express alongside Marlene Dietrich.
What kind of a house did you say?
A boarding house.
Oh.
I'm sure you're very respectable, madam.
I must confess I don't quite know the standard of respectability that you demand in your boarding house, Mrs. Haggerty.
I've made a terrible mistake.
Anna May's career was continually frustrated, however, by American anti-miscegenation laws. She often faced the disappointment of being passed over for lead Asian roles, which went to white actresses, because as a lead Asian actress, she would not be allowed to kiss or be shown in a relationship with her white male counterparts. Can you believe that less than 100 years ago there were laws like that? So Anna May was stuck with supporting roles, playing the stereotypical dragon lady. In the late 20s, she left Hollywood for Europe for greater opportunities, and found success in a number of productions there. She eventually returned to Hollywood and worked both sides of the pond for the remainder of her career, but her frustrations with casting discrimination would plague her for the rest of her life, once even being called too Chinese to play a Chinese. But a big part of Anna May's legacy was to pave the way for Asian American performers to follow, even becoming the first Asian American to star in the lead role for a TV series, in 1951's The Gallery of Madame Lu Song. For her contributions to the film industry, Anna May Wong was one of the 4 actresses alongside Dorothy Dandridge, Dolores Del Rio, and Mae West, honored in this Gateway to Hollywood monument at the start of the Walk of Fame. I don't read Chinese, but as I understand it, her Chinese name is engraved here on the marker. Let's make our way up to the north end of the cemetery to Section 6. Just north of the roundabout is the grave of Ernest Whitman. He was a film and radio performer seen in movies like Road to Zanzibar and The Prisoner of Shark Island. He also hosted the Armed Forces radio show Jubilee, which was designed for African American troops during World War II. Another radio and TV show in the 50s, The Beulah Show, featured Whitman as Bill Jackson. A little further along the roundabout, just past the pyramid, is Section Q. A healthy walk west is the grave of silent film star Louise Glaum. She was one of early Hollywood's exotic vamps and femme fatales, rival to another legendary silent vamp, Theda Bara. Her films include Love and Sex, a film whose title alone stirred controversy. She retired from acting in the 20s, but later in life opened a number of theaters in LA. Let's make our way south to the mausoleum. On the lawn immediately east of the mausoleum, we find legendary magician Harry Kellar, known as the Dean of American Magicians. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, Kellar was the greatest touring illusionist, known for his spectacular levitation illusion. He inspired many magicians to follow, including Harry Houdini. After his death in 1922, Kellar's grave remained unmarked for nearly 80 years, until 2001 when the Academy of Magical Arts, headquartered at Hollywood's Magic Castle, placed this stone. Here we are now at the Angelus Rosedale Mausoleum. Let's head inside. On the wall immediately left of the entrance, below eye level, is the niche of Everett Sloane. He was an actor who, in the 30s, joined Orson Welles' Mercury Theatre and made his screen debut in one of the greatest films ever made, Citizen Kane. He also appeared in Welles' The Lady from Shanghai and Rod Serling's Patterns. On TV, Sloane voiced Dick Tracy in The Dick Tracy Show in the 60s. He committed suicide by barbiturate overdose at the age of 55. The corridor on the left is Eternal Light. Low on the right wall we find the niche of Todd Browning. At the age of 16, he ran away from home to become a circus performer. He soon made his way to silent film, first as an actor, then on to directing, working with Lon Chaney and Priscilla Dean in films like Outside the Law. But he is perhaps best remembered today as the director of Universal's legendary horror film, Dracula, starring Bela Lugosi. He also directed the cult classic Freaks in 1932, a film considered to be too shocking for release in its original form. A few spaces to the right is the niche of Honorable Wu. He was a California-born Asian-American actor, seen in films like Stowaway and Mr. Moto Takes a Vacation. His career was cut short when he died at the age of 48. Let's head back outside to the lawn west of the mausoleum. About halfway into Section K, we find the grave of the man, Marshall A. Neilan. He began his career as an actor, but today he is best known as one of the great directors of the silent era, directing a number of Mary Pickford's films, including Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm. Neilan was said to have been Mary's favorite director. Other notable films include The Lotus Eater with John Barrymore and The Vagabond Lover with Rudy Vallee and Marie Dressler. Despite being one of the highest paid directors in the 20s, his career waned in the talkies. That, combined with chronic alcoholism, Neilan died in poverty in 1958 and is buried here in an indigent's grave. Let's head southwest on this same lawn. Right next to the chapel, we find the grave of Tim Moore, whose real name was Harry. He was known as the Kingfish of Comedy for his role as George Kingfish Stevens on the 50s TV series The Amos and Andy Show. Before that, though, he was a comedian on vaudeville and Broadway, finding success in shows like Blackbirds of 1928. After his death in 1958, thousands of fans and fellow stars came to pay their respects at the funeral of the beloved comedian. Stars like Dean Martin, Sidney Poitier, Sammy Davis Jr., Eddie Rochester Anderson, and Frank Sinatra, who reportedly helped organize an effort to pay for Moore's funeral expenses. His grave remained unmarked until the 80s when fellow comedians Red Fox and George Kirby raised funds for a stone. Just 2 spaces west, we find Andy Razaf. He was a popular songwriter in the early 20th century, mainly as a lyricist. His hit songs include Honeysuckle Rose and Ain't Misbehavin', both of which he wrote with Fats Waller. Ain't Misbehavin' would be performed by some of the music world's biggest stars for decades to follow, from Louis Armstrong to Billie Holiday.
I know for certain the one I love, I'm through with flirting, it's just you I'm thinking of. Ain't misbehaving, saving my love for you.
Razaf was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 1972. Let's head back now toward the entrance to the southernmost part of Section D. Just in from the road, we find Dooley Wilson. He was an actor and singer, famous for his portrayal of Sam in Casablanca, where he would sing the theme song as time goes by, one of the most iconic musical moments in Hollywood history.
Sing it, Sam.
You must remember this, a kiss is just a kiss, a sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time goes by.
Prior to Casablanca, he played drums in a band and performed on Broadway. Later in his career, he can be seen alongside Loretta Young in Come to the Stable, and on the TV show Beulah. Hold that music. We're not done yet. That concludes our tour of Angelus Rosedale, but we've got one more stop before our tour is through. Adjacent to Angelus Rosedale, on the northeast side, at the corner of Venice and Catalina, is the Chapel of the Pines, a quaint little old crematory and columbarium that resembles an ancient Greek observatory. It was founded in 1903, making it another of the very early resources for cremation in Hollywood. There are no crypts or graves here, only cremation urns and niches. There's not a lot of information out there about this little place, but let's take a moment to admire some of its beauty. Okay, let's find out who's here, shall we? If you saw our Halloween special, you'll remember that there's a cenotaph to actor Colin Clive out front here. Clive is best remembered for his role as Dr. Frankenstein in 1931's Frankenstein. Every horror fan out there knows this scene.
Look, it's moving. It's alive. It's alive. It's moving. It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. Oh, in the name of God. Now I know what it feels like to be God. Oh.
He would reprise the role in 1935 for The Bride of Frankenstein. His career was cut far too short when he died at the age of 37, from complications of tuberculosis exacerbated by his chronic alcoholism. Pallbearers at his funeral included another horror icon, Peter Lorre. If you look just up and to the left, you'll see the name August Jansen Dante, King of the Magicians. This is a cenotaph to the late magician, who was cremated here, but is inurned in San Francisco. In 1936, Dante the Magician would become the world's premier magician until his death in 1955. Let's head now into the Chapel of the Pines. The corridor immediately left of the entrance is Deodora Hall South. Low on the left wall, we find the niche of actor Leonard Mudie. He wasn't a leading man, but he did have roles in some of Hollywood's biggest films of the era, like The Mummy, Captain Blood, and Cleopatra. His final role was in the pilot for Star Trek in 1965. Further in along this wall, between the small windows, is the niche of actor Stuart Erwin. He was nominated for an Oscar for his supporting role in Pigskin Parade. He also had his own TV sitcom, The Stu Erwin Show, which ran from 1950 to 1955. It featured his real-life wife, June Collyer, whose ashes rest here alongside her husband's. June is also known for her role in the film A Face in the Fog. A little further in on the left is the niche of May Busch. Fans of Laurel and Hardy will remember May as the shrewish wife of Oliver Hardy. Prior to that, though, she was a popular silent vamp, as in Todd Browning's The Unholy Three in 1925, alongside Lon Chaney. May died of colon cancer at 54. Her ashes went unclaimed until the 1970s, when a Laurel and Hardy fan club paid for their placement here. Crossing now to the lower right corner, we find the niche of Lyle Wheeler. He was one of Hollywood's great art directors, designing sets for over 300 films, including Gone with the Wind, The King and I, and The Diary of Anne Frank. He won 5 Oscars in his career and was nominated an additional 24 times. Back toward the door, high on this same wall, is Willis O'Brien. He was one of the early pioneers of stop-motion animation in Hollywood. He began experimenting with stop-motion animation in the teens. His work caught the eye of Edison, who hired him to animate a series of prehistoric short films. This led to him being hired to do the stop-motion special effects for the 1925 film, The Lost World. He's best known today for animating the iconic Great Ape films, King Kong, Son of Kong, and Mighty Joe Young. He would work with other stop-motion legends like George Pal, and mentored another soon-to-be legendary animator, Ray Harryhausen. One last glance at this colorful corridor, then let's head into the chapel. On the right is Section A. Low on the wall we find Leonard Carey. He's perhaps best remembered for his role as the beach hermit, Ben, in Alfred Hitchcock's Rebecca. As an Englishman, he also often played English butlers. We now head up and around to Deodora Hall North. Low on the left wall, and today hidden under a mass of flowers, is the niche of actor Nigel Bruce. He's best remembered for playing Dr. John Watson to Basil Rathbone's Sherlock Holmes in a number of film and radio programs in the 30s and 40s. He also had roles in the Hitchcock films Rebecca and Suspicion. A little further along this wall is Lloyd Ingram. As a director in the silent era, he specialized in westerns and melodramas, directing some 100 films, including At the Sign of the Jack-o'-lantern. He was also a character actor in around 300 productions, like Scaramouche and Rainbow Valley with John Wayne. Let's head up now to the second level. In Alcove J, below the windows, we find the niche and urn of Arthur Hoyt. He was an actor who usually played smaller supporting roles, often playing little mild-mannered and befuddled men. His career began in the silent era with roles in films like The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. He can also be seen in The Lost World and It Happened One Night. A large number of stars who were cremated here at the Chapel of the Pines opted, for one reason or another, not to have their ashes placed in a niche or privately held. Either that or they couldn't afford it, or there was no one to claim their ashes. So what's the fate of these individuals' remains? Well, they're resting on a shelf, forever locked away in the Chapel of the Pines' basement vault. This lower-level mezzanine is as close as we'll get to the basement vault, which is closed to the public. Just some of the stars whose ashes are stored in the vault include actor Edmund Gwenn, old Hollywood's favorite Santa Claus. He played Kris Kringle in 1947's Miracle on 34th Street, which won him an Oscar. Actor Philip Van Zandt played Ralston in Citizen Kane. Actor H.B. Warner played Jesus in The King of Kings in 1927, and also had a role in It's a Wonderful Life. Bronco Billy Anderson was one of Hollywood's very first Western stars, writing, directing, and acting in hundreds of silent westerns as his Bronco Billy character. He received an honorary Academy Award as a motion picture pioneer. Tom Conway was an actor best known for playing the Falcon in the detective series of the 40s. William Desmond was the king of silent serials, seen in films like Around the World in 18 Days. Actress and writer Maud Fulton wrote and starred in a popular play, The Brat, in 1919, and wrote screenplays for films like The Maltese Falcon in 1931. Actor Wilfred Lucas can be seen in some 400 productions, including Chaplin's Modern Times. He also directed dozens of silent films. Sarah Y. Mason wrote the screenplay for 1933's Little Women, which won her an Oscar. Thomas Mitchell played Scarlett O'Hara's father in Gone with the Wind, and Doc Boone in Stagecoach. He was the first male actor to win an Oscar, Emmy, and Tony. Stuart Patton was a director, perhaps best known for the 1916 version of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Hall of Fame songwriter Harry Ruby wrote Who's Sorry Now and Three Little Words. Helen Chandler played Mina in Todd Browning's Dracula, alongside Bela Lugosi. And silent film star Florence Turner, known as the Vitagraph Girl, was one of Hollywood's very first movie stars. Finally, let's remember a few stars who were cremated here, but their ashes either privately held or scattered. Ross Bagdasarian, aka David Seville, created Alvin and the Chipmunks. Bess Flowers was the queen of Hollywood extras, appearing in an astounding 900 productions, making her perhaps Hollywood's most prolific actress. Alan Napier played Alfred in the Batman series of the 60s. Jay Silverheels played Tonto in The Lone Ranger. His ashes were scattered at the Six Nations Reserve in Ontario. And Anne Sheridan, whose ashes were stored here until they were relocated to the Chapel Columbarium at Hollywood Forever in 2005. And that concludes our tour. What are some of your favorite memories of the stars we visited today? Share them in the comments below, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more famous grave tours. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. What goes through the mind of Arthur Dark as he strolls the cemetery? Let's listen in. Boy, this grass has sure seen better days. Hope this drought ends soon. Alright, stay focused, and whatever you do, don't step in a hole. Oh, damn it. So much for the best laid plans of mice and me. Now, where did I leave my car?